at all. Just gorgeous. Everything. Today I'm going to drink some Rou Gui. Hi, happy Friday, everybody. Yes, today is a casual, relaxing day. Yesterday was a big one. Yesterday was International Tea Day, and I had streamed for nearly 4 hours. So, yeah, I decided today would be a cool day just to kind of take it easy and enjoy some nice tea, catch up with my friends, of course, and do a little bit of a debrief on International Tea Day and what happened and definitely what I've learned. And, hopefully, if you are on Instagram and want to join me, you can do it there. You were sweating tea yesterday. I'm guessing that means that you drank a lot of tea. That's good. It's International Tea Day. You should drink a lot of tea. I also drank a lot of tea. And just thought a lot about tea and talked a lot about tea and listened and read a lot about tea. And so, yeah, I just wanted to do a little bit of a debrief of things that I learned yesterday. I saw there was a lot of activity. This was by far the most engaging and just really incredible International Tea Day I have ever seen. And I've been celebrating it, just through our messaging and our community building for years now. And to see it yesterday, just so widespread and so appreciated, and just a part of the an authentic part of that conversation. People were actually going to the UN's page and really understanding what is the purpose of this holiday. Because in the past, a lot of folks were just using it as a let's celebrate tea and let's use that as a marketing point to get people to come to our website and to come learn tea from us, which nothing wrong with that. But if you do go look at the website, at the UN's website, and their intention. Hi, Eric Glass. I'm glad you're here. Actually, I was going to do a little shout out for your pup that you're getting. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Eric Glass is a good tea friend of ours in St. Louis, Missouri, that has been on the search for a dog for a month now. Hi, Eric. It's been actually, I started talking to you about the importance of having a dog in your life years ago. So, it's good to see that all coming together. I look forward to seeing your photos of you and your dog together. So far, the photos you sent me, I think it's going to be a good fit. It's a really adorable basset hound. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun together. And hopefully, your basset hound likes tea, because that's what they're going to get. It's always exciting. It's always exciting. I remember the day that I got Bitcoin, and that was a very exciting day. So I just put my Rou Gui leaves in the, so you've been looking for 3 months. Yeah, it's a long process, and you got to wait for the right one, and, maybe you think you found the right one, and then, someone else has adopted them first, or something comes up and they're not available anymore. So patience pays off, Eric, for everybody. I think it's a really important lesson to hold on to, that patience does pay off. And what's meant to be is always going to be. So, yeah, Eric, please post photos of you and your beautiful pup once they have entered your home. So, yeah, drinking some Rou Gui. Let you guys see the leaf here. So this is a triple roasted Rou Gui from 2019. Smells so good. Rou Gui is a yang cha. It's a Wuishan rock oolong, said to be the birthplace of oolong tea, Fujian, China. And it's got a high degree of oxidation as well as being roasted, so that's why that leaf was so dark. Your favorite young cha. I think that Rou Gui is everybody's favorite, and just most people just don't know, because it's got such a sweet profile to it, compared to the more famous ones. So like Da Hong Pao, I'm sure you've heard of, very famous tea name, is probably the most famous Chinese oolong. It's got a very roasty profile to it, more punchy, less sweet, less fruity. Um, what's the oxidation level? I don't know the exact oxidation level. Maybe like 60%, 60 to 70% oxidation. Um, and then the roasting is where there's a lot of variability. And this is charcoal roast and very long process of roasting. So every month after the tea has been harvested and made, then it's it's taken to the charcoal roaster to get a roasting. And a lot of the lower priced, more accessible young chas will be roasted only once or twice versus 3 times. So 3 times is, kind of the higher quality and prior price. So this Rou Gui is definitely, yeah, oxidation level does depend. I can't tell you the exact one. And it depends like harvest to harvest. So that's the tea master determining that, when the oxidation is done, and that's all mostly through smell. While they're processing the tea, they're taking it and smelling it. Oh, that feels good. Just makes me feel good. Oh, it makes my whole body feel good. So, yeah, charcoal roasted young cha is a-okay. And this Rou Gui is on our tea and its people website. So if you guys are interested in trying this tea, you can get your hands on it. And just another tip about our website, if you do start going to our website to look for teas and to purchase teas, please keep in mind that there's free shipping for domestic orders, for US orders, if you order at least $75. So, just a little tidbit of information. You can save a little bit of money. Hi, Dimitri. Good to see you. No, I've never been told that, Eric. So Eric says 3 or 4 roasted needs to be aged at least 1 year to drink. Yeah, I've never been told that. Now, I do know about the aging of young chas and that there is a prime time, but I've never told that you can't drink it. So, I mean, maybe that's just a different perspective of vocabulary of what we're meaning here. But from what I've been told when I've gone to Wuishan is that there is a prime age between 3 and 8 years of, well, no, that those are the years that you don't want to drink it. So from no aging, oh, get rid of the fire taste. Yeah, you're right. You're right on that. But you can drink it, so that's why there's like that prime drinking time. But yeah, we don't age teas. And this one's not having a fire taste to it. This one's tasting very smooth, very mild, very sweet. But I'm curious about that, Eric. So I am going to collect some information on that and try to share it and educate all of us, myself included. They said it's like a funk. If it's in that not prime between 3 to 8 years, it's like a funk. And again, you can drink it. There's just like an additional funk that I've never. It's like a sourness, I guess. I don't know. I didn't understand that. And when I'm a scientist, a food scientist specifically, so when it comes to like post-harvest food production or any kind of agriculture or product, and someone says something like that to me, I ask a lot of questions because I want to understand the science of it. Like, why? What is that funk? Is it a biological thing? Is it a chemical thing? And what are the compounds that are causing that to happen? And like with a lot of things in Chinese craftsmanship, um, there's just a lot of no need to explain going on. So I didn't really get a solid explanation. So you're asking what type of teaware am I using? So this is the Gung Fu uh, method or ideology or lifestyle or way of preparing tea, where you use smaller vessels, larger amount of leaf, and you steep for shorter periods of time so that you can re-steep over and over. So, if I sit on this live stream for an hour or whatever, I should be able to continue to brew this tea and enjoy it throughout that entire time, being able to steep it several different times. Now this, what I'm using here, is called a gaiwan. This is the quintessential tea brewing vessel. This is not a typical gaiwan. Typically a gaiwan would be much lighter, much thinner, and it's clay. But this is a U.S. made. My friends at Not Made in China, Patrick and Marie, they are making these gaiwans, and they're making them, kind of with a thicker clay, because this is pretty heavy. Usually the lid of a gaiwan is very light, made of porcelain a lot of times. So here, I got one right here. This is a typical one. This is big. Actually, it's kind of bigger. You see, it's bigger than that one. But it's light. This is like super light. Compared to this has like a lot more weight than this one. Gaiwan's not always going to have the print on it like this. This is extra. This is special. This is my style. But also this. I like this too. I love this brown. It's simple. It's got the, it's glazed, but you can see all that cracking inside. It's kind of a cool character. A cool little addition to the aesthetic. Something else I like about the gaiwans that they make is that they're stronger. And it's very cool to say that several cafes, coffee shops, food service establishments are interested in preparing their tea in this style, using these types of equipment and teawares. So something like this that has a very thin composition that's easy to break. You drop this, it's breaking. Guaranteed. You drop this, there is a slight chance it won't break. And it just has more weight to it. It has more value. It is more difficult to drop this or to, forget that it's there. It's there. It lets you know it's there. So another reason why I like this gaiwan. And then the picture I'm using, this is also not typical of what you would see in Chinese tea service. Usually you'd see maybe a glass pitcher, or if it is clay, and it is possible it will be clay. It's very common to see clay pitchers. It won't be shaped like this. This is a very Japanese style. Because in Japanese tea, water temperature is very important. Green teas are very popular in Japan, and you want to be able to easily and quickly cool your water so that you can brew your tea at a good temperature and not oversteep it or expose it to too much heat. So this pitcher here, I can put my water in it, and because of the surface area, like the wide nature, it has a lot of surface area around the pitcher and then also on the surface, on the top, that allows for quick and efficient cooling of the water so that when you steep, you can have it at the right temperature even if your kettle is freshly boiled. But I didn't do that for this tea. Suku. I forget what it's called in Japanese, but Eric is saying in Korean teaware. This is Japanese, but I could imagine this aesthetic being in Korean teaware as well. This is probably a bit more wabi-sabi than what you'd see in Korean wares. This is very wabi-sabi. It's not perfect. Wabi-sabi is a really incredible concept that usually you wouldn't see it in this environment. So this environment, I called it Kung Fu. That's Chinese. So if you went to China and you sat with someone that's practicing Kung Fu Cha, it would be very Chinese, you know, Chinese teapots, Chinese wares. That's it. Yuzamashi. This is a Yuzamashi. Thank you, Eric, for your Google-like fast skills. Yeah, so Eric, did you see this one? My tea display? Ooh, is that? You like it? This is also made by Not Made in China. You can see the artist stamp. Maybe you can see the artist stamp. A little difficult to see. You see that? See Not Made in China on the top. That's their stamp. But I love this. Ooh. You can see it too. So I've been using this to display my tea before brewing. They make all kinds of designs. They have lots of stuff. So Marie has a Etsy store now, and a lot of these things are. A lot of these wares, like gaiwans and teapots and even pitchers and cups and these display dishes and even scoops are all on their Etsy shop, which you can find through, I'm sure you can find it through all their social media. They're active on Facebook, which they also do a lot of live streaming, so kind of worth it to follow them and watch their journey as they're exploring the making and craft of different tea wares. So yeah, back to International Tea Day. Something else I wanted to make sure that you guys all get the chance to enjoy is the official UN webcast of their celebration of International Tea Day, which, you know, surprised the heck out of me. I saw that it was going to happen days ago, and I kind of bookmarked it and made sure to watch it. The timing of it was a little difficult with my time. I think they had done it at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning my time yesterday, so there was no way I was going to wake up to enjoy that live. So I did watch the replay of it later on in the day and was really surprised with the quality of the content. And so I had shared it on Tealet's social media, which of course you can go find there, but I'm also going to share it in the comments here, so you guys can potentially bookmark it and watch it on your own time. It's about an hour and a half long. A lot of it you can fast forward through. Either, you know, it feels not relevant to you, or, you know, so it's basically short presentations from different dignitaries within the UN, specifically the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization. So that's why when I first saw that it was going to be happening, I didn't put a lot of faith that it was going to be a high quality content. But wow, was I surprised. So turns out that the what do you call that? The Director General of the FAO, so he's like the boss of the FAO within the UN, is Chinese. And he's an enthusiast of classic Chinese poetry. So that was kind of special that, you know, he shared some of his poetry and his love of tea with the dignitaries. And he had a true understanding of tea. It was so cute. Like when they first start the webcast, there's a woman from Morocco that's emceeing the webcast. So she kind of introduces everything and gives the agenda of what's going on. And she says, okay, so everybody, can you just bring your cup of tea? And so, You know, it was a bunch of like big mugs and other things, but the boss man, he had all these mugs lined up, and he was like, "Oh, this is oolong tea, and this is red tea, and this is yellow tea." I was so happy. It just made my heart so happy to see him so proud to share that part of his heritage and his passion. I'm sure he drinks tea in his normal life. And, you know, I didn't really feel that the UN was going to give much notice to tea from places outside of like the commodity colonial developed systems like India and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, which is actually where this holiday, International Tea Day, started. And the Indian government was the one to bring this holiday to the attention of the UN and the FAO. But you know, I probably could have done a little bit of research to see that the big boss man of the FAO was actually Chinese and an enthusiast of classical Chinese arts, which would include tea, or at least tea would be an element. Not to say that tea itself would be the art. It could be. There is an art of tea in China, and there are people that practice, you know, actively practice Kung Fu Cha as an art. But tea is also, oh, Adam wants to come in. Great. Tea is also an incredible, like, a facilitator of creativity. And that is definitely what he brought to the table and educated everybody. So that was good. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Elise.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. Heating my water up, so it'll be a moment.
Great. How was your International Tea Day?
Stressful. Very stressful. I didn't really get to do anything internet. I mean, I worked, so that's always tea related. But yeah, nothing special for International Tea Day in particular.
That's too bad. Have you gone back and like watched any of the content that was generated by, you know, some of the organizations or the companies?
No. I had a lot of downtime today. I probably could have today, but I did not.
Well, I'm gonna share a link. I just shared it in the comments of the live stream, but it's the UN's official webcast, a program that they did. And what I was explaining was that I really wasn't holding a high standard of good quality content being produced by all of these UN dignitaries around tea. But it turned out to be a really high quality program. And I'm recommending to anybody, if there's one program that you watch from yesterday's festivities, which a lot of stuff came out of it. I was really happy to see how much everybody embraced, including all the tea boards and the different trade associations. People really took this seriously and really took it as a chance to bring people together and to share information and share inspirations with each other around tea. But the UN put on quite a valuable production. The head of the FAO, which is the segment of the UN that, you know, took leadership on this day, is actually Chinese, and he's an enthusiast of classical Chinese poetry and art.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like he opened up the whole program, like really like laying it on, like the real authentic passion of tea. You know, not because all the rest of the dignitaries are pretty much like South American, or they are Indian, or they are you know, Middle Eastern. So their relationship with tea is very different than, you know, the Chinese relationship with tea. Both are valid, but oftentimes in those contexts, the conversation is like just thinking about like commodity tea. You know, they're just thinking about, you know, like the industry of commodity tea. While in China, you know, it's very different. You know, there's a very different value and appreciation for tea that, yeah, it was good. But then there was a guy that came on. He is like he's like an economic scientist for the UN, and he gave a pretty good presentation on the sustainability, the economic sustainability of the industry. I was really happy to see that. So, I mean, if anything, like even that presentation should be cut out and and shared. Bye,
Awesome.
Eric. Thanks for joining. Eric Glass was chatting me up earlier. So yeah, did you see the Shabnan from the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada? She did like a 12-hour long stream yesterday where she
So
interviewed.
from it, yeah,
It was
I didn't
crazy.
watch it. My boss was watching it when like he was watching it the tail end of when Cindy Bigelow was on there.
Okay.
But yeah, I was. We were both in the office yesterday, and there was not a moment to spare for me, so I didn't take a moment to check that out, unfortunately.
Yeah. It was interesting because it was like interviews, so it wasn't really information or data being shared. It was more of like sentimental value of different tea folks with like long steeped histories in tea, just kind of casually sharing with each other their passions of tea, which was great. I know people really enjoyed it. It's not really the content that I'm looking for. Like I like want to see data and I want to like learn something new and um, you know meet new people, hear new projects, exciting, progressive, underground like projects, which, the UN's presentation definitely didn't give light to any of that. And I was actually going to bring up something else that I did learn through the UN presentation was this grant that was issued in 2014, which they're still addressing now, 6 years later, saying, oh, this grant will solve our problems. We should put a lot more attention into this grant, which is called Mainstreaming Sustainable Management of Tea Production Landscapes. It was funded by the GEF Trust Fund, implemented by the United Nations Environment Program, and executed by Rainforest Alliance. So, yeah, but it was approved in 2014. The money was given 2014, $2 million.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, especially in the tea industry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Oh, and co-financing. So there was another $12 million in co-financing. So the total amount of the grant itself was a little over $14 million.
Wow.
For, and all I can find on the internet is that it's from 2014 and there's nothing more. Like there's this little blurb that says project summary: to reduce land degradation associated with tea production in Asia by supporting farmers and catalyzing industry and government leaders to mainstream sustainable land management, SLM, and integrated natural resource management, that's resource management practices. This is a 6-year-old, $14 million project that, like, I have never heard of. And, yeah, so it's interesting. It's funny when you start digging down these rabbit holes. And like,
for it? Is there someone to contact for it about it?
Well, yeah, Rainforest Alliance, I guess they're the executors. So I mean, they would be the ones to contact and ask for information.
So I've been trying to reach out to someone at RFA over like some compliance questions, and I've emailed her twice and have not gotten a response. So I mean, the only other contact information I have from RFA would be like info@rainforestalliance.org, whatever it is. So.
Yeah. Well, and that might be successful too in getting a response. Especially if you're asking something like this, be like, hey, like I was watching the UN's International Tea Day and they pointed out to this and I thought this was really exciting. I never heard about it. Like, I'd love to hear, what's the status? Because, yeah, the last update on the official website for the funder, the GEF Trust Fund, was the grant was received in March of 2014. The project was approved the next day, and that's it. That's the only updates on this $14 million environmental tea project. A lot of good can happen for $14 million,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are you drinking?
Drink Yokoro Goko.
Goko. That's my favorite cultivar.
Lovely.
So nutty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, geez. So, did you hear about India last night?
Last night, the last I've been updated on India is about the extension of the lockdown.
Yeah,
Please.
a giant cyclone hit India yesterday.
Okay, yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Such a shame.
It's yeah, it hit Calcutta very hard. It sounds like
Yep.
we've reached out to a number of our contacts there, and thankfully, it seems like most of them have responded and said they're okay. But like, there's severe loss of power and communication and internet, and roofs off of houses and felled power lines and trees uprooted. Like it's pretty mad. Sounds like so. The extent of damage is going to take a few days to assess, and then it'll take some time to repair things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that their water, their water is safe. That's always the main.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with the lockdown happening and everybody kind of holed up in home.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's created some complications in terms of like trying to get people into shelters because like they've had to have restrictions in place for sheltering people due to the pandemic. So it's like managing this in the midst of a lockdown is complicated and scary, and it gets me thinking about what we may be dealing with in parts of this country in the coming months, because hurricane season and wildfire season are both coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Wildfires, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did you hear? Maybe I've talked to you. So I think I have. Yeah. So Nevada's started to open up.
Yeah, you talked a bit about it last week. Obviously, that was a week ago. It was So last week you were talking more from the standpoint of like this is about to get started, and since then you've now gone through a week of it, and I've seen a couple of Facebook pictures from you of like actually experiencing it happening. If I'm getting the timeline, that's what I remember.
So I mean, I haven't gone out yet, and I'm not in a hurry to go out. But I did go for a bike ride. To the strip, which was a great experience. It was so much fun, but it was interesting to see that the restaurants that were open. There definitely wasn't social distancing feasible, just because there's so many people that do want to go, and not every single restaurant's open. But something that the city is starting this weekend, at least downtown, which has, some pretty active eateries, is that they're blocking off the streets and set up tents with tables underneath so people can dine outdoors to help kind of spread things out. Yeah. But so the main thing that I've noticed on the restaurants that have opened is that there hasn't been a significant increase on the prices.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was surprised by. There is like a very popular venue downtown, a bar downtown. They, of course, cannot open as a bar right now. So bars are not allowed to open because, bars are so close. But they do have like an outdoor patio area and they have a kitchen. So as long as you're serving food, you can be open. But then you also have to space everything out and follow all these restrictions. So they're trying to get open so that they can employ their their team. And so they're like kind of charging a cover charge. And then they have increased their drink prices about double of what it was before. So that kind of made me feel good. Like it definitely didn't make me feel like I want to go, but it makes me feel like the people that do go and support it are actually it's going to be likely of them actually supporting not just the restaurant itself, but the workers, right? Because like if servers and staff are reliant upon tips, and you only have half of the people able to come in and dine, and you keep all the food prices the same, then the worker is going to be paid half as much because it's half as much tips. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing is, a lot of the people who are adamant about wanting to go back out are not necessarily the friendliest or most easygoing.
They're not good tippers.
Not only good tippers, but many of them can be very rude.
Yeah.
And in an already stressful situation, like I don't know.
It's funny. All the best tippers are people that work in the service industry, so none of them are having money right now to be out spending.
Well, I mean, I made a statement to a friend of mine, an old middle school friend of mine, who's been kind of vocal about how he thinks that we need to end lockdowns. Like, really smart guy, so it's odd for him to be associating his viewpoints with like people who are not that smart. And so I finally questioned him based on one post. I said, serious question here. How much is this really impacting your life? And based on that, why are you so adamantly pushing for reopening? And he said, oh, it's not affecting my life. It's affecting people in marginalized livelihoods. And I said, well, you know what? As someone who spent the better part of his career in that marginalized livelihood, I can say that I question your sincerity and your what was the word I used? Sincerity and something else in regards to credibility and sincerity in speaking for us, because having worked in that world for so long, as recently as less than a year ago, there's a lot more than a pandemic that can upend our lives at the drop of a hat in the service industry, in the customer service industry. Mm-hmm. These are people who are, yes, the marginalized existence is real, and any number of things could cause like me or anyone in that world to lose their job and suddenly not know what the income is going to be, and like be trying to reassess, reinvent, and find a way to build something out of nothing. And what else?
Yeah, no, it's a valid point. It's a really valid point.
It's just, I made the point of like, look, my most recent work was in Puerto Rico, and I'm still communicating with a lot of people there, and they've had many other things happen to them beyond this pandemic to throw things out of whack.
Yeah.
So if you genuinely care so much about these people's lives, why are you posting all this stuff that, I know what the other thing I said is like, many of them need to get away from these toxic workplaces to begin with. Mm-hmm. Many of them don't want to have the liability. Most of them don't want to have the liability of potentially killing their customers or their friends. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're choosing between tuberculosis and cancer. It's either be in a toxic workplace and make not a lot of money, or be out of your toxic workplace and make less than not a lot of money and wait things out and try to figure things out from there. And I said, if you're going to be so adamant about this, why are you posting these things about end the lockdown and instead post things about people in this industry need to get a living wage, need to get guaranteed benefits, and anytime you order delivery, why aren't you tipping minimum of 30%?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's valid. So I mean, I think that's going to be something that I'm going to put into my rhetoric around this is like, yes, let's go support these restaurants and these employees, but tipping, we gotta. The system is still broke. So, and unless a restaurant, which actually quite a few, it's been a trend over the past few years for restaurants.
Yeah.
To get rid of the tipping thing and be very transparent with their customers. Hey, we pay our workers well. We take care of them, so you don't have to tip them.
Yeah, many of them. There is a movement. There is a trend. There is interest across the board to do that. The problem, probably the biggest problem, which is in stark relief now due to the pandemic, is that restaurants operate at such thin margins that even though every last one of them might want to offer full health care coverage and living wages and say no tipping, so many of them they struggle to be able to do even a fraction, to be able to offer even a fraction of that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, to your point, the U.S. is one of the few places left that where tipping is a thing. I think it's time that it goes away, and that we reassess how the margins look for restaurants, and how the global supply chain for restaurants and food pricing and service is managed.
Yeah.
We should be paying what these things are worth, and if people are essential workers, they should be receiving money that reflects their essential status, and et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. What's that's a nice Texas state on your shirt. What is that?
This is from, it's great you ask about this. This is from the Texas Sommelier Conference from this past August. So you'll notice here, this is a corkscrew.
Okay.
And the day, so I don't know. I'm fairly certain, unfortunately, I'm not. If it happens this year, which I haven't really paid close enough attention to, if it's still going to happen this year. As far as I know, it's still scheduled to happen, especially with Texas reopening, but I don't know what it would be like this year. But with all that I've had going on, both related and unrelated to the pandemic, I can't imagine that I would be going even if it's happening this year.
Yep.
But last year, this past August, when I went, I volunteered for it, and the day before I volunteered was when I had my first phone interview for my current job. It was kind of all of a sudden the week before I got contacted about the job at Martin Bauer, and I said, okay, I'll be traveling next week, and my boss said, okay, can we do a phone interview someday while you're traveling? I said, okay, yeah. Friday, because Friday was the day before I started volunteering for the conference.
Cool. So what happens at the conference?
A lot of wine. It's there are seminars, there are tastings, and lots of wine gets poured and lots of wine gets wasted because there's just so much wine. I have a picture that remind me next time we see each other in person. I'll show you on my phone of because I was volunteering. One thing that we did was there would be a seminar and you pour tastes for each of the person in the seminar for when they sit down, and then whatever wine is left over gets brought back to the volunteer room, and we would be drinking that wine throughout the week. But as many of us as there were, as much as we loved the wines, we were inundated with wine in that room and in additional public tastings for people who were attending, and for the seminars that would happen, that we could not possibly consume all the wine that was in that. And then we would have our own after parties that got sponsored. So there was more wine than we could consume. And some of it was like rare, expensive, amazing wine. So I had this one picture from the very last day when we're finally at the point where like we're cleaning up, we're throwing away, and it's like, if you're not drinking this wine now, then it needs to go.
Yeah.
So there was this whole table of wine that I took a picture of it like right before it was about to get thrown, right before we were about to start dumping them all.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you guys had a big party.
We did have a big party, but there was more wine brought to the big party that night. Our after parties were sponsored by like Moet and Chandon and Broadbent Collections and all these importers and producers that would bring their wine and open up like Nebuchadnezzar bottles, because it's like they don't normally get to open these. They've got a captive audience of wine professionals. They're going to open the gigantic bottle and have fun and pour it for all of us, and actually be able to pour the entire bottle and not waste it. So it's like, yeah, like we did have a party, but it wasn't with that particular table of wine. With other wine that was opened up that night.
It's good I don't work in the wine industry.
I mean, yeah, it can be fun.
Are you a somm yourself?
What?
Are you a sommelier yourself?
I'm a certified sommelier. Yes.
Okay, cool.
I was going to that. I was going to that conference because I was running the wine program at a restaurant at a wine bar in San Juan, and I was trying to network and work my way up the ladder and meet people. And as I said, the Martin Bauer thing came up out of the blue. I wasn't expecting to find my way back into tea. I was kind of leveraging things on the wine side again. Oh,
I see. Okay, so you literally were working in the service industry when you were in San Juan.
Yep.
Cool. How was that experience? Was that your first time to work there, or
in San Juan or in the service industry?
In San Juan in the service industry.
Yes, I was in San Juan for about a year, and yes, it was my first time living there, first time working there, period. And yes, first time working in the service industry. First time working in the service industry there. About half my career has been in the service industry.
Interesting. So how was that compared to here? Is it very similar or a different culture?
Aspects of it are similar. Aspects of it are very different. Basic stuff like same currency, same you can very easily do your job, any job there speaking English. If you don't speak any Spanish, I did speak Spanish, so it did give me a leg up. You could certainly work without that background. It's different. Like the biggest differences for me were people's tastes and preferences. Both good and bad. Like one thing that was interesting to me is people really like Spanish wine there, which is here people are more into Californian and French wine. And so that was kind of cool. On the other hand, like people's palates are pretty simplistic there. Like Puerto Rican food is just a lot of like heavily fried food. So some things that to me are pretty simple and I've been exposed to throughout my life are like very foreign to them. Like I remember there was local bok choy on the first restaurant where I was working there, and very often people would ask, "What is bok choy?" And I would have to tell them in Spanish, "It's a Chinese cabbage." Was the best explanation I could give to them.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. They're terrible tippers. Like you generally expect around 15% without tax included. And this is on an island where, you know, especially people in the service industry are not making a whole lot of money. So that's pretty rough. And the people who are dining out at the kind of places that where I was working could easily afford to be tipping 30% plus if they wanted to. They just didn't. It wasn't their thing.
Yeah, so I've never been to San Juan. I've never been to Puerto Rico. Actually, I have been there. I take that back. I've been there. But definitely the places that I went were like, not fancy restaurants. But I could pull an experience from when I went to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. And we went to a fine dining establishment there. And majority of the diners there were all expats. So and I felt like I could have been in the United States. It was a very different dining experience from all the other restaurants that I had gone to eat at. But yeah, that's interesting. Puerto Rican food.
The restaurants where I worked, at least at the time, I was only getting paid in cash. There were no like W-9 forms that I filled out. Anything like that. So that was kind of interesting. It's a lot more Wild West kind of there situation there. You can be an entrepreneur without as much red tape, which in some ways is a good thing, in other ways is not such a good thing.
Yeah. I bet you that's why a lot of the cryptocurrency world is attracted to Puerto Rico.
I think that definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Biggest thing, and I mean, this plays into that, is that Puerto Rico is a tax haven for expats.
Yeah.
So Puerto Ricans pay more in taxes than the expats who live there. It's an exploitational situation. So you don't. There are a lot of tax breaks, and consequently, like, there's not a lot of money being reinvested and appropriated to actually benefit the island in meaningful, tangible ways. So it plays into this massive debt problem that they've had since before Hurricane Maria, and then it all gets exacerbated by Hurricane Maria, and then they have a number of earthquakes earlier this year. So,
wow,
yeah, it's been
how's your family holding up there?
They're staying healthy. We're fortunate that my wife is still working, so we're fortunate in that respect. She's very stressed dealing with my son, but fortunately my mother-in-law we have been able to get some help from my mother-in-law, and they've been staying there, and so it's difficult, but it's definitely there are many people in more challenging situations, whether it's like anyone experiencing a job loss or not having like any additional outlet for childcare. So there's that. The lockdown situation there is tough. The island has the strictest lockdown in the country. Restrictions are about to get loosened starting next week in a very good way, but at the same time, the people in charge of the government there are absolutely idiotic, and they haven't been managing the situation well at all. And there's severe lack of testing there, and that's going to continue as the island starts to open up a little bit more. So they're really not monitoring their risk level before, during, or after.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So what things are going to be lifted, or what restrictions are going to be lifted?
They're going to allow water sports again, which makes perfect sense. It's a very, like surfing and kite surfing, what have you, are very socially distant activities, so that makes perfect sense. Gives people a chance to get exercise and get out of the house too. They are going to reopen restaurants at 25% capacity. I believe that they are opening, what's the word? Hair salons and nail boutiques and what have you, for appointments only.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing some other non-essential business is going to get reopened as well. I don't remember exactly, but that's
good.
kind of it.
What does your wife do for a living?
She is the chief of staff at the Foundation for Puerto Rico, nonprofit organization that has been trying to build up, rebuild, and improve upon the tourist and visitor economy on the island.
Wow, so she must be working extra hard right now trying to figure that one out, yeah?
Yep, she's always working extra hard. She's definitely a workaholic, but yeah, right now, I mean, the entire time she's been working there, because it's been like when she started, she was focused on Hurricane Maria recovery, and then earlier this year there were the earthquakes, and now there's this. So there's always been a crisis that she's been working on. I mean, at least with Hurricane Maria, it was like a year in the rearview mirror. So it's when she started. So it wasn't quite as the urgency and the gravity of it was not quite as intense, but it was still dealing with a crisis from which the island still hasn't fully recovered.
Yeah.
And it's not going to fully recover until like the federal government until the federal government and the executive leadership on the island actually like starts acting like adults in terms of like helping that island out. This is one reason why I was pretty bullish on Elizabeth Warren, because she was one of the first candidates to visit to make a campaign stop in Puerto Rico, since announcing her campaign. And one of the few who actually did. Like I want to say maybe at most 25% of the candidates actually went by there, and she was one. She did, and she was one of the first.
Yeah.
And I got the impression that due to her being an intelligent policymaker, that she was genuine in her goals in terms of trying to find the best solutions for the island on terms that would be agreeable to actual Puerto Ricans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a dream of the past.
Yes, unless she gets the VP nominee, but I mean,
yeah, yeah. Who knows? I heard Amy. I heard Amy's getting vetted right now.
Yeah, I mean, a number of them are getting vetted. I hope Amy is not the choice. I honestly don't. I honestly wouldn't prefer Elizabeth Warren to be the VP pick because for a few reasons. I don't think. I mean, mainly, I don't think it makes strategic sense because you have two. You would then have two Northeast people, which I don't think plays into the strategy of trying to draw people who kind of are increasingly viewing that part of the country as with skepticism. Number one. Number two, and this is an even more tangible thing, if she gives up her Senate seat, it would get filled by a Republican. Because the governor of Massachusetts is a Republican. He would appoint someone to take over her Senate seat until there's a special election.
It's an interesting election, though, because, like, we had so much momentum in the Democratic primaries, but then, you know, just like a complete drop-off of any type of, you know, and it's not like the president has really been in the greatest light either. So it's like, for the first time ever, you know, like, there would be the possibility of, like, a real surprise. You know, someone could come in, like, I don't know, be it an independent or, you know, and with how fast things are changing and how fast we've gotten used to fast change now.
Yeah, I mean, the independent thing is, until the Electoral College goes away, that just, there's very little chance of someone from outside the two major parties gaining much traction, because it's like the winner takes all state by state system with the Electoral College. I mean, the best an independent ever did was winning 3 states, and that was George Wallace.
Well, and then, like, the Libertarian Party. How many? I think what's his face? Who was the guy that did the best in the Libertarian Party?
Gary Johnson.
Was it Nader?
No, Nader was in the Green Party, and he got. I want to say he got 2% of the vote. He didn't do very well. So, if I remember correctly, there are 2 non-major party nominees who had the best results in history: Ross Perot and George Wallace, depending on how you look at it. George Wallace won 3 states, so he actually did get the most electoral votes that a non-major party candidate has ever gotten.
Yeah.
Pretty grotesque when you think about the type of person that George Wallace was. Ross Perot got somewhere around 20% of the vote, but he didn't win a single state because he didn't. Again, you need to get a majority in a state to get any electoral votes. He didn't get a majority in a single state, so he ended up doing was eating it. I mean, if anything, he ate into George H.W. Bush's lead, and that helped Clinton out. You getting some comments?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was checking if I did. Agatha, actually, she commented a while back. She commented about the FAO video, saying that interesting talk and comments on the International Tea Day online meeting. So okay. I'm not alone. Like, other people are agreeing. It's actually good content. Like, you wouldn't think it, because, you know, it's not like famous tea celebrities that are talking, but I think that's almost better. You know, I think that we should, like, take a break from, like, listening to all the legends of tea, you know, and idolizing them, because ultimately they're all marketers. Even myself, you know.
And I don't know. Many yeah, I don't have a very high tolerance for many of the tea celebrities, if you will. They can many of them I find I don't know a little too fluffy. I guess would be the best way, the most politically correct way I can put it.
Yeah, fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very. I mean, by our nature, the world that we work in is kind of is less mainstream. So it's very easy for us to get self-absorbed when we talk about the products about which we're passionate. So if you're listening to a tea celebrity, they can sound self-absorbed, and it's kind of okay because their audience is largely people who are only within the tea industry.
Yeah.
The UN is not, I would assume, was not necessarily taking that approach, but with which to me is very intriguing, which is why I would, I'm inclined to. What you're saying about it, your observations make sense to me. But the person being the one leading it from being from China, being from like a legitimate culture that has like a very deep foundation associated with tea, I would think. I mean, I hate to use this term because it's. I think it gets overused quite a bit lately, but I think lended it some authenticity while still seeming very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just, he's talking about something that is a part of his culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is, and again, I didn't watch it, so I haven't watched it yet, so
You should.
Off the cuff based on my.
It's cool. I was just so surprised with how it is, and it's kind of stuffy and it kind of feels like C-SPAN. So it's definitely not glowing and sexy how tea content usually is, but for him to kind of open up the stage for the rest of the presentation by showing his Chinese calligraphy and reciting poetry. How often does someone in the UN, a leader in the UN, get to do that in one of their official meetings? But it was a great context for him to create for the rest of the meeting, because then all the rest of the presenters were dignitaries of Argentina and of India, and they were talking about the real shit, the real ins and outs of marginality and lack of mobility of the workforce of tea under this context of this very artistic and poetic kind of context. It's cool. I was just wow, this is really cool. And outside of the Chinese guy, or the leader, I shouldn't just call him Chinese guy. I'm sorry, that's so rude. But the director general, outside of his presentation, all the rest of the presentations are very mathematical and very data driven, which is great because we don't get a whole lot of that in tea conferences. A lot of the data is kind of felt and then of course the presenter is usually a marketer. It's usually somebody that's trying to sell something ultimately. Myself included, I give a lot of presentations, and I always try to keep myself in check of the sales will come later, that stuff will come later. I have this stage right now, I want to present information rather than just creating this romantic aura around me that I'm this tea explorer. And people ask me all the time, they're like, why don't you do that? You should be doing that, Elise. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. People, they can make whatever assumptions about my lifestyle that they want to. But my goal, and I feel like my responsibility in the tea industry is educating people, really educating them, not Because like my goals, I've told you this before, my goals extend far beyond tea. Like I'm not trying to be a tea celebrity. I'm trying to solve bigger problems, and tea is a very big problem, and I'm very grateful that like the root system of my journey is in tea. Like it's best that it's that way. It just makes total sense, and I'm very grateful, and I take the responsibility. But yeah, my goal is not to become like a tea master or like like the romantic tea celebrity. But I do love tea. I'm not gonna deny that.
Of course.
So I do have to head. I told a friend of mine, she's just launching a podcast. I told her I'd be on her podcast today, and I think my appointment's at. Let me check my calendar. I think it's at 4.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's at 4.
What's the podcast?
What's it called? It's called like let me look at it. I liked the name. It was kind of a catchy name. I don't think she's published a single episode yet. I'm probably going to be on Positive AF. And the AF is not what you think. It's action first. Positive action first. It's a show that celebrates positivity in all forms. Through this podcast, I love to explore the duality of our personal journeys intersecting with the impact we create in our communities.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty cool. I was just like, I was really impressed with her professionalism of how she sent me the pitch. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll do an episode with you. I'll help you launch this thing. She sent me like a very concise 3-page document that had like the audience, the formats, a call of action, some bullet points that she will potentially ask me. So, yeah.
Rad.
So yeah, I should go and get that. But thank you so much for jumping in and connecting. I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Are you gonna be able to have a long weekend, or is it not gonna make any difference for you because Monday's Memorial Day?
Yeah. My Monday will be shorter, I guess. The post office won't be open, so I won't be able to like get orders out. So, yeah, I guess I'll have a little bit of a holiday on Monday.
Cool.
I may go to Utah. I have a friend, he's finishing, Ramadan finishes on tomorrow night.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, and he takes Ramadan very serious every year, which is good. And I love like, connecting with him in that process. Cause like I don't practice myself, but I think it's good to get exposed to that and get exposed through, the emotional states and everything and all of like the philosophical thoughts that are going through someone's head when they are, practicing that. So he wanted to go check out some nature and some water by Sunday. So I may go on a little road trip this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Thank you, Adam. So Monday I do plan on doing this again, and Mondays is going to be like the hospitality talk. So we're going to dig deeper. Cool. Yeah. So if you want to make that, and I'm going to invite some other friends too, to make sure it's not just me talking. Cause like really, like I do have like some pretty passionate ideas and thoughts about this, but like the actual mechanics of it, I don't know. I've never like worked in the service industry myself. So, I just want to provide that platform and kind of like instigate people and push people to think about these things and ask the questions. But I won't be able to do it myself. Like I definitely need the help and collaboration of others to actually like understand what about the mechanics of the industry would need to change to achieve the final goal, which we pretty much covered today, Adam, which, is like cool. Yeah.
So it's 2 o'clock or
2 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock
for you right now.
No, well, I started today's kind of around 3 o'clock. I was a little late. I was enjoying the weather and a relaxing lunch. I let myself. It's Friday. But on Monday, because I'm going to be inviting others to as well, I'll be sure to be on time at 2.
Okay, so Monday at 2, and what time is it for you now?
Right now it's 4.
4. Okay,
Yeah, so I think it's 5 your time.
You're 3 hours behind me. Okay, so 5 o'clock my time. Yeah. I'm gonna put a reminder on my phone. So
awesome. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, no, I think your experience would be like super relevant and appreciated in this. I'm gonna try to get my other friend Paul involved because he's a wine guy actually. So yeah, you cool. would love Paul. I'd love to introduce you guys. Maybe you have met him already. He might have been on one of these before, but he's here in Vegas. Wine guy here in Vegas. All right, Adam. I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Fairly, thanks.
Bye, everybody.